These are the deadliest shores of the whole Mediterranean. On the 6th of June 2016, a massive blue cargo ship rammed its way up onto the beach in Kokala in the Peloponnese peninsula of southern Greece. A Greek salvage team rushed to the grounded vessel. It was the second major accident in the area in 6 months. The team had just returned from a disaster site on Andros Island. This is the story of how a family of salvors and tug owners have come to the rescue of dozens of ships in the eastern Mediterranean and saved the stunning coastline from devastating pollution. An orange tugboat is preparing to leave the port of Perama, close to Piraeus, Greece. The Pantocrata is the flagship of a Greek tugboat company, Mega Tugs. As the day comes to an end, the crew's work is just beginning. They are getting ready to sail through the night to take advantage of a spell of good weather and complete a salvage they began 6 months ago. As night falls, the ship heads out to sea, a 5-hour trip ahead of them. By the time they arrive on Andros, a senior salvage master will be catching a ferry to join them. A new day dawns in Rafina port. This is where the ferries leave for the port of Gavrios, on the northernmost of the Cyclades Islands. The passage between Eubea and Andros Islands is known as the most dangerous strait in the Mediterranean Sea. With strong winds and high waves, especially in wintertime. Ships pass through here, coming from the Black Sea, headed to Piraeus or beyond, carrying goods from the east. The ferry is carrying one of Greece's foremost salvage masters, returning to a wreck that he intervened on just 6 months earlier.
Το Cabrera έπαθε μηχανική βλάβη.
Cabrera had mechanical failure in the Strait of Cabrera, which is one of the most dangerous locations of Greece due to the atmospheric conditions.
Λόγω των καιρικών συνθηκών.
Each case is unique, and you must be always, sure that you will cope with all, these difficulties.
We believe in team spirit, and I think that none of this would be possible if we didn't have the support and the love of our employees.
This certain beach was completely black because of the contamination. We found the fresh oil almost all over the place.
Back at the Mega Tugs operations room, the staff are preparing yet another salvage. The company, which originated as a ferry and tug company, moved into diving and salvage in 1978, guided by strong family management. Kara Mikelaru is the granddaughter of one of the founders of the company. Both grandfather and grandmother worked in the original company.
Mega Tugs is an entirely Greek family business, which was established in 1978. The founders were 5 persons, 3 were siblings and 2 relatives. 2 of the founders, Mr. Yannis Panagiotakis and Mr. Michalis Xidadakis, were also captains of our first 2 tugs.
Over the years, the company operated tugs and eventually offered the market a mix of diving, towage, and salvage services.
Right now, Mega Tugs is vertically integrated, so we have two other companies, Mega Dive, which is for diving inspections and underwater repairs, and we have Austria Greece, which is an environmental protection company.
Captain Nikolaos Aslis is the Mega Tugs' senior salvage master and has lived his life on the seas intensely. His first salvages go back to the Iran-Iraq War.
I had a lot of difficult moments in this period, like the time I salvaged a ship called the Island Transporter. There was an Iranian ship chasing us, saying that we had entered into their waters. They told us to leave immediately, and ahead of us there was an American warship telling us to move forward with all our lights off. There was fear of the exocet. There were airplanes releasing exocet. One hit the Smith Masters 1. They hit it, and it caught on fire and completely burned.
Smith Masters 1 το είχαν χτυπήσει και είχε καεί ολόκληρο.
Iranian warship, this is U.S. warship 993.
Iraq was using missiles to sink freighters passing through the Persian Gulf. He was working for Mega Tugs' partner company, Smith Salvage. They were dangerous times.
Άλλες περιπτώσεις είχαμε πλοίο στο οποίο το χτυπήσαμε με εξωσέτ.
In another case, a ship was hit by exocet and caught fire. We went into the ship to save people, put out the fire, and save the ship, and there were 20 or 22 dead people on board, burned. It was the Tostelitet oil tanker. And when it was outside the Persian Gulf, a bit outside the Hormuz, we pulled it back into the Persian Gulf. After we stopped the black oil being released into the water, we didn't want it to explode and catch fire, and we were able to do it.
My father was, his family were involved in the wreck removals for the Hellenic Navy, and they were recovering the warship that they sunk after the Second World War.
In the early days, the company recovered World War II wrecks and sold them for scrap. But the working conditions were harsh, and the ship parts loaded onto wooden boats.
At that time, they were selling the steel for scrap to the local steel factories, and they were cutting the vessels. It was very difficult, the conditions, because they had not very sophisticated means.
Since Paul has been the managing director, his job has been to handle some of the most dangerous salvages in the story of Mega Tugs, even disentangling a grounded ship from a World War II mine.
It was a small bulk carrier vessel that she was anchored close to Thessaloniki port, and due to the bad weather condition. And in this particular case, there was a mine that it was attached to the chain of the ship, and this mine was active with 300 kilos of explosives. The special forces were refused to get engaged in to release the anchor chain from the mine, so we undertook this task as well with our diving team, and we refloat the ship.
In 2015, the company sent tugs far out into the Gulf of Aden to the Yemeni island of Samha, close to Socotra, to salvage a ship and save a crew.
We have been assigned with the task to save one bulk carrier, 60,000 tons, that she was immobilized due to mechanical failure of Socotra.
The situation deteriorated when the salvage team lost contact with the ship and crew in a dangerous area known for hijacking by Somali pirates.
They were boarded on the lifeboat, and they went in some island which is very close to Socotra. So we undertook the task to send a security team with a supply vessel from Djibouti in order to save the people, the 14 crew members. The vessel was connected by our salvage team, and she was towed to Sharjah.
In 2016 and 2017, Mega Tugs was involved in 3 of the most dramatic salvages and one of the strangest. In late April 2016, the old ferry Panagia Tino that was berthed in Piraeus, awaiting a court decision on who owned it, partially sank. It was a sad sight, but Mega Tugs came to the rescue and refloated the veteran of the Aegean routes. More dramatic salvages continued throughout 2016. The Mustafa Khan was a 9,250-ton deadweight bulk carrier headed to Italy in heavy weather. The crew called the Italian Coast Guard on the 27th of September 2016, when the ship began listing to port. They managed to get into a life raft just in time before the ship capsized completely. The Italian Coast Guard managed to winch them to safety, but the ship itself, with 70 tons of heavy oil aboard, posed a serious threat to the environment. The ship was being pushed by the wind towards the beautiful Sicilian coastline, the same stretch of shore that had seen the Gelso M washed up against it 2 years before. Mega Tugs swung into action.
We received an emergency for the Mustafa Khan, which capsized off Sicily. She had around 70 tons of heavy fuel oil. So we were contracted by the P&I Club to carry out the oil spill response services. We were asked, to establish connection in order to avoid the grounding of the Mustafa Khan in the Sicilian coast.
By the time the Mega Tugs crew reached the wreck site, the ship was completely capsized. Before attempting to get a line to the hull, the salvors carried out a full underwater inspection of the wreck. Assessing the risk that the ship might sink during towage was a key factor in finding an appropriate point of attachment. Eventually, the divers managed to climb onto the capsized hull and decide that the bow thruster housing was the safest place. It was a massive risk, as the ship could have gone under at any time. It was time for the diver to return to the tug. The fastest way was simply jumping into the water and swimming. With the aid of an Italian Coast Guard launch, 2 members of the Mega Tugs team managed to climb aboard where the hull was lowest in the water. It was risky, but the 2 made it aboard. With the aid of a rope ladder, the 2 approached the tunnel behind the bow thruster and passed a nylon rope through. It was the first step to a successful towage. The nylon rope was then attached to the tow rope that was then passed through the bow thruster and back to the tug, where it was fastened using a shackle.
We managed to put our divers on board, and finally we connected the Mustafa Khan at a distance of around 10 nautical miles from the Sicilian coast, and then we kept it until the arrival of the other tug, and which took delivery, and finally she was towed away.
Mega Tugs operates a small fleet of tugs with a broad remit. The oldest is the Panormitis. The largest is Ionian Pelagos. The most powerful, Megalopoli 7. The twins, Pantocrata and Pantanassa, played a key role in salvaging the Cabrera and delivering environmental protection equipment ashore. On the 24th of December 2016, one of the worst ship disasters of recent history struck the island of Andros. The phones began to ring at Mega Tugs headquarters.
I was on the Cabrera the moment right before it sank, about 20 or 25 minutes before it went down and was destroyed. The moment that I went on Cabrera, due to the work I was doing, and from how the ship was moving and the sounds it was making, I could see that it was splitting into two, and I understood it was going to break into two. I barely had time to call the tugboat. I jumped onto the tug, and the ship broke in half, and half of it sunk, and the other half went into the rocks and broke into 150 pieces.
The Cabrera wreck threatened to destroy the coastline of one of the most beautiful islands of Greece, one that offers hospitality to thousands of tourists every year, and whose marble quarries have supplied the world since ancient times. The salvage operation that began in March 2017 involved more than simply making the ship safe. A 500 square meter oil slick had formed along the shore. A massive cleanup operation was put in place to safeguard the island's tourist economy as the dangerous ferrous nickel cargo was removed. Today, the coastline is clean, and the Mega Tugs owned environmental protection company, Osra Greece, is completing the job. Although the year began with the Cabrera, the Greek drama continued just a couple of months later with the incredible grounding of the bulk carrier St. Gregory close to Kokara in the Peloponnese. The ship had left the Ukrainian port of Ilyichevsk bound for the Tunisian port of Sfax with a dangerous cargo of 30,000 tons of sulfur phosphate aboard. Once again, a navigational error caused a major shipwreck.
The St. Gregory ran aground in June 2017, and in Kokala area in Peloponnesos. She was heavily aground. She had a cargo of sulfur phosphate, and she suffered serious hull damages in the forward part, as a result of which there was also the water ingress from the duct keel to the engine room.
Μετά την Νεάπολη, Βιών.
Having passed Neapolis Vion, he should have turned toward south. Either they forgot or they fell asleep, but it went full speed ahead straight for the rocks. It was near a small village, and the village was on a small gulf, and in the middle of the village there was a big church. The ship came to a stop about 5 meters from the church. If it had gone a little to the left or a little to the right, it might have hit a house. And so St. Gregory came to rest there, right in front of the church.
Εάν πήγαινε λίγο πιο αριστερά, λίγο πιο δεξιά ή πιο αριστερά, πιθανώς να έμπαινε σε κάνα σπίτι μέσα το πλοίο. Και έτσι προσάραξε εκεί, τον Gregory.
Mega Tugs swiftly dispatched tugs to the location with a survey crew and a naval architect.
Yeah, it was a complex because we have mobilized an experienced salvage team together with Smith Salvage, and we have managed to, get on board the people in the next few hours after the incident. We mobilized tugs, and we immediately started with the salvage survey of the vessel, which is a very important factor before you start, let's say, doing any kind of salvage work. You need to make first a good assessment from, the whole salvage team, including divers, the naval architect. They have to make the proper study.
The situation was far more complex than anyone had imagined.
we are imposed, to transship about 8,000 tons of cargo in order to reduce the ground reaction and refloat the vessel with the assistance of the tugs. And this, operation was very challenging, and because we have the, cargo which was considered dangerous, and the local community was very anxious about the effect that, this cargo, the transshipment operation will have to the local community.
In order to reduce the ship's load by 8,000 tons, the company brought in 2 lighters that were tugged into position and pushed against the side of the St. Gregory. The holds were opened and the toxic cargo was transferred into the lighters.
We deployed the oil booms, and then we hired, after the completion of the salvage survey, and we calculated, that we need to, transship 8,000 tons of cargo. We hired 2 smaller bulk carriers that they were able to come alongside the vessel in shallow waters, and by using the vessel's cranes with our crane drivers, we managed to transship 8,000 tons of cargo, 4,000 tons on each vessel.
Unloading it was very difficult, but it all turned out perfect. I don't have any complaints. We took all the precautions. We waited until there wasn't any wind. There wasn't even any dust that escaped, and we loaded it without any problems. We were all happy.
Loss of a dangerous cargo of sulfur phosphate into the atmosphere or into the sea would have been a disaster for the local community, who rely on pristine blue waters and clean beaches to attract visitors. The Mega Tugs team engaged the whole range of their equipment and personnel, and together with Smith Salvage, their global partner, began the removal operations. To get the grounded St. Gregory off the rocks of Kokala, the naval architects had calculated that they needed 8,000 tons of buoyancy. Calculating the buoyancy needed to refloat the ship and the towing power required to get it clear is complicated and never an exact science.
One of the things that we are asking at the initial stage of an emergency operation is to provide us with a list of documents, manuals and booklets of the ship in order to enable our naval architect to run some scenarios, what will be the condition of the ship after, she is refloated.
The bow of the ship had been breached, which meant that the salvors now had to attempt some form of repair to ensure that it would float. Once again, divers were called in to carry out welding and patching.
We did a lot of work on the St. Gregory. The divers on the outside and the inside the hull, where they could, and where they could see the damage, they repaired it. We took measurements, and we knew how much water the ship had taken on. We measured from above, so we knew how much water, and we knew how many holes there were to close up, and we knew there was no danger to the ship if we floated it. So first, we lightened the load and unloaded 8,000 tons to lighten it and bring it out of the water.
In the course of a few weeks, enough sulfur phosphate was removed from the ship to give it some buoyancy. There was some movement on the bow. The lighters waited alongside with the offloaded cargo. As the 2 Mega Tugs tugboats began applying force, there was no knowing whether the ship would move or not, if the calculations had been correct.
Sometimes it might be you have a small ground reaction, but there might be a rock inside the hull of the ship which does not allow the vessel to be refloated, and then you proceed on the next step to do the lightering operation.
The salvors had not been hired to transport the cargo, just salvage the ship and deliver it to the owners.
After she went, after she was refloated, we put back the 8,000 tons of cargo. Then we delivered the vessel after we completed the patching works in Githio anchorage in order to avoid, the water ingress to the forward part, but also to the engine room. And after the completion of the underwater patching works, we gave delivery. But at a later stage, we came into an agreement with the underwriters, and we undertook also the task to transship the 31,000 tons of cargo to another ship, and when that was completed, we towed the vessel to a shipyard for repairs.
The ship was no longer able to proceed under its own power, so the Pantocrator and Pantanassa towed it to the nearby port of Githia. It was not until a month later that Mega Tugs was once again hired to oversee repairs to the ship and offload the whole cargo onto another ship for final transport to Sfax in Tunisia. But while the St. Gregory was a fairly simple salvage, the wreck of the Cabrera proved more difficult, and 6 months after running aground, was continuing to pollute the stunning beaches of Andros Island. The return of senior salvage master Nikolaos Aslis signals a return to the search for solutions. He has first to make sure all the paperwork is in order. The authorities in the island are welcoming. He is about to take away one of their greatest sources of concern. Captain Aslis is a well-known figure. Mega Tugs has been contracted, along with Smith Salvage, to remove the aft section of the ship that continues to lose oil. However, getting to the isolated beaches has been a nightmare.
Andros is an island that in the northern part, some of the beaches are unreachable. They are not accessible, and there are no roads to get to the beaches. One of these is Lefkivari, and the other is Inhalaritis. The Lefkivari is a place used for swimming, but the Inhalaritis is dangerous, and only small boats can go there, and it is still polluted. We weren't able to clean it, also because the atmospheric conditions of winter did not allow us to clean it.
We had to use methods and techniques that they were friendly and will, avoid further damage to the area. So this means that we were not allowed, to use chemicals, hot water, or steam to clean up, the rocks.
Actually getting to the isolated beaches was difficult in December and is not easy today. A four-wheel drive vehicle is needed to get to the beaches.
Τη Λευκιβάρη αναγκαστήκαμε να κάνουμε δρόμο 600-700 μέτρα με grader.
To get to the Lefkivari, we had to punch in a road 600 or 700 meters with a bulldozer, digging and going down to the sea, And as we were making the road, we were only able to go down with 4x4 vehicles or big trucks. And often we would go down to work, and because of the rain or snow or bad weather conditions, there were landslides that would wipe out our road, and we had to start over.
Και ξαναφτιάχαμε πάλι δρόμο από την αρχή και πάλι κατεβαίναμε και πάλι καθαρίζαμε.
This was one of the most contaminated beaches because of the incident of the wreck Cabrera. And we did all these operations in order to clean up the beach. Now, as you can see, it's let's say completely clean. And what we're doing now is doing some inspections at all the beaches, not only here, just to observe and write down and report the contamination that is still on the shoreline.
Gregory Sorotas is in charge of the cleanup operation and is employed by the Mega Tugs owned Osra Greece, its environmental protection arm.
We deployed some equipment that we had available for oil spill response, such as pumps, fast tanks, skimmers, and also we did some piles and other stuff, some engineering stuff, just to recover all the oil we found here.
Today, he and his team are searching for what is left of the heavy oil, and they still find large frozen blobs that have to be removed manually.
We're doing this inspection, as I said before, just to observe some tarballs. Tarballs, we mean some balls of oil, and we're doing the reporting. Every time we are here, we're writing down the amount of oil that we observed, and of course we pick up and we collect all this in heavy-duty plastic bags. And we're writing down some reports. All these reports are very useful for us in order to do the final contingency plan, just to finish the operations.
Applying the current legislation on environmental protection, especially in this nature reserve, has been complicated and slow. But today, Mega Tugs is at the forefront of this exciting new field.
This need emerged actually because when you have a salvage, you need other companies to join this case, this effort to save the ship. So we believe that it is better for us not to employ others, but to have it in-house, to have a completed service for our clients.
Here in Greece, it was we were not familiar with all these operations. So I think it's time to start doing it. And this project is a startup, let's say, it's something that we have to do. We're obliged to do it because we own it on the environment.
While the cleanup operation is completed, the salvors prepare the final phase of the wreck removal, which involves removing the aft section of the ship containing the engine room and fuel tanks, as well as the crew quarters.
We can move on to the final, let's say, stage of the operation, the wreck removal, because we have to make some plans here to deploy some booms and other stuff just to protect the beaches from the incoming contamination.
Smith has brought in Smith Tack for their largest shear leg.
We worked for many years with Smith Salvage. We are very proud of that. We gain experience and expertise from them. I believe that it is necessary to work with a bigger company than we are, because it is not possible to have all necessary means to offer a complete service to our clients.
Πρώτα, σήμερα το πρωί έφτασε ο Γερανός εκεί.
First of all, this morning, the crane arrived at the scene. The first sign that we will be looking for is a stretch of clear weather of 4 or 5 days in order to work, because the crane cannot work in bad weather conditions. We need a window of good weather for 4 or 5 days. As soon as the crane arrives, we have to anchor it. It has to be stabilized in one place, right next to the ship, and we will put out the buoys exactly where the ship is, so we can pass the cables that will raise the ship.
Πού είναι το καράβι, πού θα περάσουν τα σημεία για να περαστούν τα σύρματα που θα σηκώσουν το καράβι.
Aboard the Smiktak 4, activity is frenetic as the crew prepares to move on to the lift. Jules Martina is the salvage master in charge of the massive lift.
I have been a salvage master for around 5 years, but I started as a diver, and then I became a salvage supervisor, salvage master.
He is inspecting the chains that will be used to lift the aft section of the ship. The massive shear leg was towed all the way from the Smit base in Rotterdam to do this job. It is one of Smit's major and unique pieces of equipment. It is seen here in the recovery of the tricolor car carrier and in the similar operation of the Baltic Ace in the North Sea.
The shear leg it's got 4 blocks. It's got 2 blocks which can take 700 tons each, and 2 blocks which can take 400 tons. So altogether is let's say 2,200 tons weight that she can lift, total weight.
The aft section of the ship that the team is here to lift is an awkward shape. Special steel plates will be used to give greater resistance to the crew quarters that are most likely to have deteriorated in the last 6 months underwater. The reinforcements will be bolted onto the superstructure.
It's here. This is the accommodation. We're gonna run a chain around the accommodation like this, and at the corners, like here on the other side, and also on here on this side, we got some sharp corners, and those are where we are going to put the protection plates. Divers will investigate the area where the plates are going to be connected. Then they will install the plates. We have a dummy. We have a wooden dummy because these plates are very heavy. We have made a wooden dummy, so the diver will go with the dummy, check where it's going to be the right place. He will mark it off, and then we will install the plates.
The entire aft section of the Cabrera weighs 700 tons, empty of the water inside.
Some of the chains we brought from the Holland. Some of them we took here locally. And the breaking load of the chains are over 400 tons. So we can easily have the weight of the vessel. The weight is around 700-800 tons without water, just the dry weight. It's between 800 tons with some debris inside. And these chains, all the rigging that we're going to use, the chains and the wires, the breaking load is bigger than the actual load of the vessel.
However, before proceeding to the lift, the actual state of the ship, after 6 months in the sea under some of the worst weather conditions this area has ever seen, needs to be ascertained.
I do not know the condition of the hull at the moment. We need to do an investigation, a dive survey first, and then we know in what condition the vessel is. We presume that it will be the same as 6 months ago. And then it was in reasonable condition that I think we can manage without having the steel breaking on us.
So raising it out of the sea will take a few hours to drain the seawater and remove the unstable weight.
What we do is we bring the vessel to the surface and then slowly we bring it up and let her drain before we take it out of the water completely. So at the moment that she is breaking surface, we're gonna take it up in increments and let the water drain. And if there's a lot of water inside, we will pump the water out. If the water doesn't drain, we will pump the water outside.
The big day has come. Actually raising the aft section of the Cabrera requires absolutely calm waters, so that both the shear leg and the barge will remain stable during the whole operation. First of all, divers go down to fix the plates and attach the chains under the aft section of the ship, which lies in 30 meters of water. Then they attach the steel plates using the wooden dummy to mark the exact place where the heavy reinforcements will be attached. The team has other work on, and as November approaches, the likelihood of windows of good weather diminishes by the day, so there is a sense of urgency in their work. At last, all is ready, and the shear leg begins to take the weight. Slowly, the 700 tons of the crew quarters and engine room of the Cabrera begin to rise out of the sea, and as the water drains out of them, the transport barge can approach. At last, the section can rest on the transport barge. The Mega Tugs fleet can now return to its home port, and the Smitag to Rotterdam. The barge will take the aft section of the Cabrera away for demolition. As the Mega Tugs team wraps up another job, the future of the company looks bright.
We want to expand more in terms of software, hardware, our skills, our personnel to be more trained, even more trained, and even go further than our boundaries that we have now. We are mostly in Greece and the Eastern Mediterranean Sea, so we aim to do more than that.
The ferry returns to Rafina port with Cara Michelaro on board.
Here in Greece, I think that they're mainly family business, Greek family business as well, but our years of experience, I think that they have made us one of the leading companies in the salvage and towage industry, both in Greece and in the Eastern Mediterranean.
The sun sets on Rafina port, and the descendants of the founders of Mega Tugs can be happy that a complex job has been completed. The family-run business will continue to grow and invest as long as ships ply the dangerous seaways between the Aegean and the rest of the world.